Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Minds of Resonance. We're going to jump straight into it. We all understand that diversity in the natural world is a good thing. This is what creates healthy ecosystems. For example, bees pollinating plants, or the mixing of genetic lines creating stronger offspring. We also see this principle play out in music, the combination of African rhythms with European harmonic structures. Boom, jazz. But also think about it in domains such as business. If you had a company that was fully run by engineers that were very good at what they did, it would not innovate as fast as a startup company that's run by an engineer, a marketer, and a designer. Because each person comes with their own different toolkit. Together, they can spot opportunities that one perspective alone would totally miss. So with cross-pollinating in the natural world, for instance, bees, I think that's probably the first thing we think of if we're talking about pollination, right? Especially cross-pollination, because they cannot pollinate only one kind of plant or one kind of flower. If they only did their work on one type of flower, they would be endangering both themselves and the plant population. Both the bees and the plants would be very susceptible to the first sign of stress. The cross-pollination benefits both the bees and the plants, so that both are healthy. And in the animal kingdom, diverse family lines produce stronger offspring. They can adapt to changing environments better. They just have a stronger lineage. And inversely, we have seen the problems of inbreeding. During the medieval and Renaissance times in Europe, royal lines would want to keep the bloodline pure, and in doing so, the branches of those family trees converged a little too much, you know what I mean? And it caused the following generations to be infirm, sickly, have mental illness, to look the way that they did. Look up the Habsburg jaw and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the natural world has lots of examples of the results of diversity being better than the original sum of its parts. My interest, however, is the implications that this has for you and for me. How can this principle better our relationships, our success, and our life enrichment? It turns out cross-pollination and diversity has a lot to do with how our species has evolved and how we can individually just better our lives. Speaking of the Renaissance, this was a time in history when the collision of domains was so high, because what was the hallmark of the Renaissance? The Renaissance man was well educated in many subjects. One of the critical breakthroughs to come out of the Renaissance was art, right? Realism and depth and perspective within paintings. An artist named Brunelleschi is credited with the discovery of linear perspective. Brunelleschi was an architect, an engineer, and a sculptor. So we can see how he got the notion of combining geometry with art, which is exactly what he did to gain that linear perspective. Art before that time period could not nail down perspective or depth or realistic shading and lighting, and it's not a matter of preference. It's not because they just liked art being that way. I think artists tried really hard to make their art more realistic looking, but they couldn't make that breakthrough until someone had the idea that geometry and math had to be involved. These well-rounded people experimented with subjects that they were interested in, subjects they knew deeply about, which brings me to the inspiration of this video. I had these notes already in my, handy-dandy phone of just cross-pollination in general, but it wasn't until I had come across Dan Koh's content that I realized that the idea of diversity and cross-pollination goes so much deeper into our lives, and this is how we're seeing people have success even online and in the content creator space. There are two trains of thought when it comes to content creation. So the first one is niche down. You may have heard the line, the riches are in the niches. Just get very specific on what you want to talk about. The second philosophy is talk about everything you're interested in. Dan Koh asserts that you should strive to be the niche of one, meaning you are the niche, the things that you are interested in, that is your content. Combine topics that you're interested in that are also relevant, package it in a way that's useful to people, and deliver it to your audience. Heavily paraphrasing, but that is his message. I tend to agree with his take on that. You can obviously be successful if you niche down, but we're seeing a ton of people becoming successful by combining things that they know or are interested in and sharing that with everyone. It's very clear that cross-pollination is mutually beneficial, just like with the bees and the plants, right? It strengthens both the bee and the plants. So it is with us and our ideas. Sharing ideas benefits both the teacher and the learner, and in good conversations, it's making the connections in real time and branching out and going on tangents because this reminded you of that thing, and that makes sense because you knew this already, but you really connected the dots in another way. That is how you strengthen the mind. That's how you enrich lives. It is also our jobs to share what we know with the others. Go out, self-actualize, level up, come back to the community and share what you've learned. And if we all did this, we would all be so rich in understanding and in experiences, even if it's vicariously through someone else. And this is not for the benefit of, oh, now I know so much or I have this understanding. This benefits you as a whole entire person. People who have more diverse interactions and who have more novel experiences are also more emotionally resilient, mentally and emotionally resilient. They can come across different ideas and different opinions and not be wrecked and not have a whole identity crisis when they run into something that causes friction with their beliefs. When you have an interconnected web of knowledge and experience, you are so much more resilient than others who insist on sticking to one way of living, one way of knowing, right? People in a monoculture will insist that they know the answer to everything you bring to them. People who have more diverse experiences and who have interacted with different kinds of people, they tend to have more questions. There's a cord on my microphone now because it died, but we adapt. I think that's loosely related here. There's a quote by Aristotle that says, "The more you know, the more you realize you don't know." And I think that this really distills the idea that people who think they know everything, people in a monoculture, people that will double down on only one way of living and not branch out, those guys will have the answer to everything, right? People who actually have experienced many things, either personally or through the eyes of another, they know that there's more to the story. They know that there are more perspectives, and they're not the quickest to claim they know the answer. They actually will come up with really good questions. My goal with this channel, and specifically this episode, is to prod you to go live your life, to lean into the things that you're curious about. We are dot connecting machines, and the more dots you can connect and that you can share with others so that they can connect, the better we all are. And that's how life is meant to be. I totally understand where people are just interested in one thing and they want to go all in on that, and more power to you. I think there is definitely a demand for specialists, but generally speaking, for us humans, we have the ability to learn. We have neuroplasticity, we have like opposable thumbs to build things and create. And I know this is sounding maybe esoteric, but I'm really trying to get at that you're supposed to have different experiences and build and reconstruct what you thought you knew, tear down, build up. We're meant for cross-pollination. We're meant for diversity of thought more than anything. And we know that cross-pollinating strengthens everyone. So it's actually an act of selfishness if you want to stay in a silo. Go reach out, go learn, go just be curious and lean into it. We'll all benefit from that. So I'm really interested in talking about the next topic. In the creation of this video, I kind of was on a roll mentally, so I already have the next topic lined up. I'll see you guys there. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating if you're listening to this in podcast form, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.